This story starts with a man getting stabbed in his chest by a white-haired girl in a heavy downpour. We see the close-up of their faces, the guy seemingly being expressionless. And as she pulls out her sword from his chest, we see him coughing up blood. He tries to lift up his hand with a gentle smile on his face as he pants hard. His hand gently caresses her face, thinking that she is still beautiful, precisely because he cannot possess her. She moves away from the dying man. He ends up calling her a bitch with a smirk on his face. Suddenly, a notification appears, nullification of engagement. Now the camera pans to the computer screen. We hear someone taking a sigh of relief. Finally, this part of the game is not crashing. Our boy put all of his effort for this one guy, finally fixing a bug that kept happening in the nullification of engagement. Our MC's name is Kim Woo-jin. He yawns hard from being tired and closes his overtime for today. He is a game developer. Console game development company, RU, in South Korea, which was a wasteland for console games. RU appeared like a storm, pumping hit after hit, becoming a studio known worldwide quickly. And the game he is working right now is a title that they poured all of their investment and profits in until now. In other words, they are done for if the game doesn't do well. The essence of this game is that its difficulty and story would change depending on player's choice. But despite the fact that it's a single-player game, its highly advanced AI and named characters have been getting much attention from the community. On top of that, there are a surplus of classes such as Knight, Mage, Explorer, Demon, Demon Hunter, Noble, and more. Thanks to the wide variety of roles, players have the freedom to be whoever they wishes to in the game. In other words, if the game does well, they would be raking in money. But if the game fails, the company would fall with it. As so, he goes on to check the character settings again, and the reason he has been working overtime past few months. Is this guy, the main character of the episode that he finally managed to clear the bugs from, Deculian's death. Deculian von Greyhan Eucline, one of the intermediate bosses of this game, and also a named villain. There were countless errors to fix because of all the routes possible with this character, and he finally managed to kill him without anything going wrong. And the reason for his death in this route is a stab wound by his fiancée. But to Woo-jin, it makes sense considering everything he has done and schemed. Suddenly, someone calls him out from behind. It's a girl, who asks him, how is the testing going? She is the team leader of the development team he is in, Era. She is also his ex-girlfriend. They had been together for 7 years. They felt happiness in all the time they spent together and all. Woo-jin was naturally lazy unlike her, who was born workaholic. Her ambitions helped him become a better person, but they still broke up in the end, as he ultimately couldn't change despite her efforts. Era comments hearing that he had been struggling because of some bugs, while he remembers that 6 months after their breakup, he heard that she is with someone new, leading him to comment that things must be going well with her new man, startling her slightly. As she replies that the rumors are spreading fast in the company, and that it's going well indeed, Woo-jin doesn't feel too good hearing this from her, and replies that he hopes she gets married to him, causing Era to tell him to stop being petty and keep at the bugs, and also that he is going to need to make some changes as some things were changed on the story's end, which annoys Woo-jin a bit since it happens every time. He also asks her if she is sure that he is an intermediate boss since he seems really killable. She replies that it's both the game and Deculian's charm. The more the scenario progresses, the stronger he becomes. And also a fun fact, she reveals that the model of this character was Woo-jin. It surprises him a bit, and Era asks if he not noticed the similarity, and he replies that he only met the artist twice. She teases him by saying that it's why she kills this character as soon as she meets him in-game, leaving him annoyed again. She comments that their personality are similar as well, but Woo-jin notes that his last words are, "You damn bitch," so how are they similar? Regardless, she asks him about the game's experience, and he replies that it's fun, but he don't like the fact that the fate of the whole studio is hanging on this game, and she tells him to not worry about it, as it's definitely going to be a hit since the gameplay trailer has hit as well. Glancing to the side, he notices that Era's boyfriend is here, and he informs her of this. He is apparently waiting for her, causing Woo-jin to tell her to not keep him hanging. She should go to him, he says in a cold tone, and she also simply replies, "Yeah, I will." She waves him good luck, and Woo-jin simply tells her goodbye in return. Soon enough, More and more time start to pass. We can see the clock ticking. Woojin is still in the office and decides to test Dekulian again. He calls the artist harsh for seemingly basing this character on him. He notes that he got 6 attributes, and the combination of was kid and average mage. When he was a child, Dekulian was called a magical genius and put on a pedestal. However, he was just like any other average mage, and because of his arrogance and background of nobility, he ended up with the worst personality, seeing which, Woojin wonders if he can even be considered a human. And while he is supposed to get stronger as the scenario goes on, he is already surrounded by those who hate him. It gets Woojin thinking if they cannot put in another attribute or personality trait, something that isn't too conspicuous. Since he is supposed to be modeled after him, he sees a trait called comprehension, causing him to wonder if it's something like empathy. Since he is supposed to be modeled after him, he sees a trait called comprehension, causing him to wonder if it's something like empathy. He ends up adding all the ones that looked good, but now that he is done, he feels a bit ashamed. And due to which, he quickly plans to revert him back to how he was originally before a problem occurs. Before he can do that, he gets a notification. It's supposed to be the story writer. He asks the story writer if he wants to change something about the model, and he replies that he was just waiting to take a look. It surprises Woojin a bit, thinking if he is wanting to write now, and asks if he means the finished character model. But the story writer simply laughs and tells Woojin to take a look outside the window. He does so, wondering, what could it be? But what he sees outside shocks him greatly. The whole sky has pierced, as if it has a hole in it. Suddenly, we see lots of vision, skulls, undeads, and demonic hands. And lastly, Dekulian, who is kneeling in front of something while Woojin wonders, where is he? He feels a sharp pain in his head, questioning himself, who is this? He hears some words, warning him to be wary of someone. And that someone is Dekulian. He is warned that Dekulian is no tame man. He may be hesitant now, but he can do something at any moment. He is just downplaying his own talents right now, but he is a vile villain. We switch scenes to Dekulian, who is being shouted at to wake up. He opens up his eyes and finds a girl sitting besides, questioning him. How long is he going to sleep for? How can he call himself a person? He sighs and slowly starts to get up. We learn that he is Woojin. It's been a few days since he possessed this body. To him it still feels like a dream. The girl questions Dekulian. How long is he going to stay cooped up because of some woman? Is he trying to shame their entire household, or what? She starts to leave while leaving some papers behind, telling him to get up and move if he don't want to get fired. After the day, the strange-looking sky appeared. He woke up in a strange body, in a strange place. It's been already a week since then. He recognizes that he is in the world of the game he made. The somewhat familiar scenery has made it certain. And the worst character in the game, who cannot escape death no matter what. A man who is fated to die. He became the villain, Dekulian. He thought that it was a dream at first. But as a few days passed by, the realistic feeling of life made him finally accept the truth. He thinks if it's perhaps the afterlife after he died from that lightning strike. But one thing is for sure. He has now literally become the villain of the game he was developing. He is the middle boss in the game. No matter which route you take, the root cause of all problems, the enemy of everyone, and has caused pain for countless characters. He don't understand the reason that he ended up being a named villain. Another big issue is that he don't know which part of the story he is at. The only thing he knows is how much mana he got, but not how fast it runs out, causing him to realize that he cannot prepare for anything like this. Everyone, not just himself, tested the game thousands of times during the development, and this character only survived once. He is nothing but a villain solely created to die and serve his purpose as the middle boss. He sees the document left by the girl. It's about his lecture at the Imperial University, Basic Understanding of Magic and Mindset Towards Mana. Uriel von Grahan-Uklein, the woman who threw the paper while he was sleeping, is Dekulian's half-sister and the one serving as the head of the household in Dekulian's place. She doesn't have a good relationship with him. And the woman that she spoke of is probably Julie. Woojin assumes that Dekulian currently has something happen with his fiancée. He also remembers Uriel telling him to get up right now if he wants to keep his fancy professor job. Hearing her say professor, Dekulian realizes that the lecture is today. He sighs and decides that he should go. He has never given a lecture before, but he do have something to gather more information. And more than anything, he is focused on the words floating above his head since he woke up. It is because of this and Uriel that he feels like he should be moving, as there are ways for Deucalion to die because of Uriel. Anyways, the store currency is quite important as well, but he don't know what he is supposed to lecture on, but it's fine still. Because this body as the attribute, comprehension. Before he became Deucalion, he gave him this attribute so that he gain a little empathy. As it's a unique grade attribute that only appears later in game, there are probably hidden effects. The clothes in the bathroom feels unfamiliar to him, but he can make use of them without much thought, as if he lived as Deucalion all of his life. Usually, he would feel out of place if he wear these kinds of clothes, but right now, they feel elegant and brings him comfort. This is another one of Deucalion's attribute, intimidation, dignity, and aesthetic sense. It's almost as if it's telling Wu Jin that the body is his now. He don't even feel like saying anything that would be considered rude. The formality that Kim Woo Jin once found rigid now feels natural. Although his main purpose is to gather information, this walk towards his first lecture feels nothing but natural. In his mind, he starts to refer himself as a noble, a superior member of the nobility, but quickly sweats and refuses his status, calling it my ass. Wu Jin, a completely regular man from South Korea, objectively tall and handsome, and to quote someone before he broke up with them, a pathetic lazy bastard. That is who Wu Jin is, and so, Wu Jin doesn't plan to lose himself in Deucalion. He won't let his guard down. While sitting in the carriage, he feels good as he has never been in such a nice car before. But these expensive car also made him remember that one time, which still pisses him off. He then notices someone sitting beside him and wonders who that person is. The guy haphazardly introduces himself and hands over something to Deucalion, who wonders if he is some kind of assistant and asks the guy if he is a wizard. Confused, the little guy reminds him that he has been at his service for 3 years, leaving Deucalion to say that he was just joking. The document that he thought was lecture material was actually a script for him to read. It contains all the information he needs from start to finish. He realized there is no way Deucalion prepared it himself, considering how prideful and untalented he is, and that his assistant must have done all the work. So he compliments him on his good work, but the words come out after much effort, leaving the assistant confused at first as well. Even the driver is surprised, as Deucalion asks his assistant to get some rest now. The compliment made him feel sick from inside, causing Wu Jin to wonder just how terrible of a person Deucalion is to feel that way from a simply giving out a compliment. He felt this as he was leaving the manor, but Deucalion's consciousness is invading his own. He now finally arrives at his workplace, the Imperial University, and the area noted on the letter, it was the rodeo hall. Now at the rodeo lecture hall, students seems excited to be able to listen to head professor's Deucalion's lecture. They heard he was master of spell interpretation and a child prodigy. Deucalion arrives, calling everyone to pay attention and introduces himself, and that he has taken the class as the head professor of the university's magic tower. And now, he is going to begin his lecture. The female students seems to be fawning over him, finding him really handsome and cool. But someone else is seething in anger. In a grumbled tone they say, "At last we meet." The supposed enemy of their father, Deucalion, the trash bastard. 3 years ago, her father killed himself. For many years, he conducted research on spell interpretation, but due to the shock he received when someone extorted his thesis out of him, he fell into complete despair and chose death. And the person who stole the thesis was called the genius spell interpreter by everyone. That person was Deucalion. But she couldn't do anything, because after her father passed away, she lost everything. She was born a noble, but lost everything, including her family house and territory, and became an orphan with no home. At that time, she made a pledge to take revenge on that trashy bastard. Afterwards, she was able to enter the Imperial University, where Deucalion worked with enormous efforts. Even if other students don't know what she does, she believes that his spell interpretation is a bluff coming from her father's achievements. And yet, she questions on why he can stand there so arrogantly, believing that this position should have been her father's. Her animosity is to the point where she wants to expose his lie right now and kill him. But she holds back, as in order to drag him down, she needs to prepare more for the perfect revenge. Deculian tells the class to silence since he is starting his lecture. He introduces himself to everyone, stating his rank to be a monarch in mages. There are total 11 ranks for mages, and monarch is 4th. He starts his lecture that there are 3 big attributes and 9 types among them. The attributes are the origins, the source of magic, elements, materials that make up objects. The type includes summoning, spirits, destruction, support, enchantment, manipulation, ductility, bewitchment, and lastly, harmony. While lecturing, Wu Jin starts to think that it's much easier than he thought. Even thought it's his first lecture, and he is unfamiliar with the theory of magic, and even if he is reading off a script written on paper, he is still able to perfectly understand everything. Not only that, but Deculian's overpowering grace is making everyone focus, and the burdensome traits of interest and eye contact that come from elitism feels natural instead of overpowering. It makes him think that perhaps the current Deculian possessed the traits of a good teacher. Continuing his explanation, the use of mana differs depending on where it's stored in the body. Normally, mages store the mana in their head, which is the easiest place to imagine spells. Knights store theirs in the heart and emit it from the blood vessels all over their bodies. Lastly, there is the inner core, which mixes internal and external mana. It is the most universal place for mana storage. What he basically wants to say is that hard work is important, but if they are not talented, then they need to choose and focus, which Wu Jin finds something also befitting of Deculian. He doesn't have amazing talent. His current mana is at 3375, while there is a named mage whole primary mana is at 30,000. So, he finds it quite amusing that Deculian is saying something which he should take the note of the most, and with this, he ends the lecture. He looks at the script and sees one last part, but it seems strange to him, and he wonders if he has to read this. Knowing full well that if it was the original Deculian, he wouldn't have read this sentence. As such, he ends up asking the class if they got any questions. Everyone looks around, and Deculian notes there doesn't seem to be any. Only for the white-haired girl to pop up and asks about a mysterious spell that was discovered in dormitories, which is assumed to be an act of the devil, and as the genius spell interpreter, but Deculian stops her in the middle before she says anything further, and asks if she is really from the university's magic tower. The girl asks, why is he asking that, and he replies that if she is, then it should be second nature to say her name and affiliation. As such, he is not going to answer a question from a child who doesn't follow even the basic etiquettes, shocking the girl greatly. He starts to leave, while apologizing mentally as he has no choice right now. He just realized that comprehension skill consumes lots of mana. He is already at 2,000. He understood the script, but it cost him 1,300 mana, and he don't know how much it would be consumed if used on an unknown spell. Everyone around the girl starts to laugh at her for trying to get noticed, but it didn't work, which frustrates her. She again tells him to wait, explaining that the magic tower is refusing to analyze it, but if it's him, he can figure it out. And she quickly launches the spell in class itself for Deculian to analyze the spell, and he ends up using his skill on it, leaving him with only 360 mana out of 3,375. She tries to at least ask him for a hint on the spell, but he answers instead that it's barrier magic, and there is no need for hints, much to her surprise, explaining further that it's a bewitchment-type barrier spell, with someone seemingly wanted to trap them all with it. His response leaves all the students and the white-haired girl speechless. Fast forward to the cafeteria, the girl calls Deculian an annoying bastard. She was going to expose that his spell interpretation skill was a lie with an unknown spell, but he got flustered and instead made her out an idiot because she didn't say her name first. She knows that bewitchment magic is very difficult, and most spells need parameters, but to call that bewitchment magic without any parameters. She just brought the unknown spell that was drawn on the dormitory's front door last night. It was quite chaotic at first, but its purpose was to increase the freshman's research skills. Just as she is calling him an idiot, a girl comes running to her. It's about the magic spell at the dorm's front door yesterday. After assuming that it's a real barrier and recomposing it, it turned out right. She is surprised to hear that, as the girl explains that they didn't have the nerve to ask the professor, but she was really brave. She tries to deny it and asks if that magic was really a barrier. The red-haired girl agrees and calls Deculian amazing for knowing that it was a bewitchment spell without any parameters. She thanks Ephraim and offers to add her name to the report, and she nervously thanks the red-haired girl for that. Ephraim simply thinks that Deculion got lucky, and she improved his reputation for nothing. She looks at his lecture and nervously decides to attend it, since knowing your enemy would win her battles. She wants to not waver since she is going to keep seeing his face from now on, and plans to expose Deculion soon for things he did. Switching back to Deculion, who got store currency for his quest, and thinks that it could have gone badly. The moment he looked at the spell earlier, his comprehension was activated automatically. Just looking at the spell circle with lines tangled within each other was enough to take out all the remaining mana inside of him. He wasn't even able to understand what the spell was. Even if he had twice the mana he is right now, he wouldn't have been able to understand the principles of the spell. But just as he is thinking that nothing went wrong, someone greets him. And it's none other than that silver-haired girl, whom he immediately recognizes. White hair and light eyes. He has seen this person many times through the monitor. Julie Von Dea fried in, who asks Deculion, how has he been? He remembers her as his fiancée and a named character who will eventually become the pinnacle of knighthood, though he didn't expect to see her here and replies that he is not sure. But he still calls himself fine. But Julie's expression seems to have changed hearing that. She reiterates what he just said, questioning if he is fine despite breaking that promise they made a week ago. But Deculion doesn't have any idea what Julie is talking about, and thinks that it's better to avoid it, and replies that he don't recall, and tries to leave. But she steps in front and asks if he is trying to run away like before again. Seeing her expression, Deculion realizes that she is not going to let him pass. As such, he replies that he must have forgotten about it since he suffered from a fever for a while, and asks about the promise they made. We see a flashback where she tries to make a promise with Deculion that if he becomes truthful to himself and confesses everything, then she would be with him even if the world crumbles. Back to the present, she seems quite angry with him, saying that she was wrong for trusting him, and tells him that he may take his leave, and Deculion simply stares at her silently, and leaves simply saying, "Excuse me," leaving Julie quite angry. She recalls that her engagement with him was out of convenience. Deculion, a talented mage, and Julie, a talented knight. The Yucklines and the Friedens, the noble bloodlines, there was no one to object to this marriage. Julie thought that it's fine since it's for the good of the household, even if she don't love him. But the two households soon realized that Deculion's talent didn't exist in the first place. He himself didn't wish to acknowledge it. He lied to the world by calling himself a genius of analyzing spells and became a professor. After some incident, he stopped putting forth any accomplishments. Despite that, Yucklines and the Friedens tried to keep quiet about it. Surely because the two households did not wish to be the topic of gossip, they did not want their flaw to be exposed. But Julie couldn't forgive this situation. She was okay with a loveless marriage, but she could not stand the lies. It was her conviction as a knight, that's all. Deculion told her back then that he would do as she told him so, making her happy. So in the current situation, Julie angry questions him if he is really not going to keep his promise until the end. We now switch scenes to the Imperial Magic University, Magic Tower. It's the best university in the game, and the magic department is at the top of all its departments. Walking around, Deculion finds it to be quite nice. A large campus, and a garden that is well cared for. It reminds him of an American college campus. His team and him spent all those nights together to create this atmosphere, but he feels it would be much better if he was in someone else's body to experience this campus. Suddenly, he notices someone running towards him at high speed. He quickly elbows him right on the face, and the guy apologizes as he was in a hurry to meet the professor. Deculion quickly recognizes the kid from before and refers to him as Zoro at first. But the guy fixes him by saying that his name is Alan. Now at Deculion's office, upon seeing the document, Deculion realizes the reason Alan was in a hurry to see him. It was a list of sponsorships for the new mages this year. The Magic Tower is similar to research facilities in the real world. So money is required for the development of magic. The professors of the Magic Tower sponsor new mages they deem worthy. Upon seeing some students, their name starts to shine in gold, which he assumes is due to Deculion's attribute. He is sure that it's the combination of wealthy magnate and sharp eyesight. The figure behind this name will bring in money. He finds few others like this, but there is one brightest among them all. Ephraim Luna, a main named of the game. According to the developers in charge of modeling her, she lost her father to Decillion. But he questions Alan. Why does she not have any sponsorship? And he replies that everyone was too afraid, and Decillion realizes that everyone was wary of what he might do if they sponsor her. He notices that she is talented enough to come to the Magic Tower without having gone to the academy. But Decillion is her enemy. If he let things play out like in the game, he would meet the same end again. And in the game, Decillion dies in countless ways. A sword to his heart, a wand to his head, a poison glass. A bomb terrorism, whatever the method might be, the fact that he would die doesn't change. So, if he wishes to live, he has to make a different choice, a choice that original Decillion would never make. He signs some paper and tells Alan to turn them in and borrow a few books as he is going to write down right now before going home. And with those instructions, Alan leaves. Meanwhile, Decillion thinks that he would need a lot of money in order to survive. A lot of death routes can be overcome with money. And investing in a mage is one way to get it. But it is still not enough. Countless named in this world who resent him, they will try to kill him whenever they get the chance. So, he needs a way out, which is that he needs to become strong. But Decillion's talents are just average, and at this rate, he cannot respond properly to the future threats. He don't have enough power. He would be unable to survive the countless death that will come across his way. But he does have something in his favor, that are his attributes. Decillion cannot control all 4 elements like he boasts, but he does have potential in manipulating the earth and fire elements. And the result of combining earth, fire, and metal leads to the formation of Decillion's other attribute, which is called the Midas Touch. As such, his talents in manipulating metal allows him to wield the chi-controlled levitating blades. But even though it sounds grand, it's still just simple telekinesis, but it's not mainstream in this world, and what he lacks in power can be made up by manipulating the properties in the metal. But to realize all this, he needs to first learn manipulation. He is going to learn how to manipulate objects. He immediately decides to test it out. He touches the book and starts to absorb all the information from it. We see it creating a huge circle right in the middle and wild mana courses throughout the room. The contents and the spell of basic telekinesis gets flooded right into his head. We see him sweating hard due to the immense stress, and he quickly tries to test out his new power. And with a simple gesture, he is easily able to lift the pen in the air using telekinesis. Now, he has memorized basic telekinesis and don't need a spell to cast it. To see something that he only saw in game be realized like this is something astonishing to him. But it's still just the basics. He cannot reach the level he wants with just this, even with higher level telekinesis. This gets him wondering on what he can do. He quickly gets an idea to put magic circles all over his body. In this world, magic circles get stronger the bigger they get. If he understand his body using his own comprehension skill, not just his brain but his heart, his inner core, he would engrave magic circles all over his body to strengthen his telekinesis. But there is still chances that his body gets overloaded from the side effects. But the attribute, Iron Body, which would allow him to withstand the side effects. It's something that's only possible for him in this world. His current mana level is 800, which should be enough to get a little taste. And he immediately begins his attempt to do so, and we see magic entering his bloodstream. The pain is incredibly frightful, a pain that cannot be compared, one that feels like all the bones in his body are breaking and every muscle is torn. But he doesn't waver. He don't plan to let out even a groan. That is the elegance required of a noble. After he is done, he is left with only 1 mana, feeling immensely exhausted. But he was able to get something out of it, and now has a magic circle on his shoulder, and at this rate, it would take him 2 weeks to get it all over his body. A month after Decillion's seminar, the first day of the lecture, he sets up a board to bring him the results from this area as he wishes to test their abilities, making all the students wonder if his classes are usually like this. They realize that they have to do something with elements, and everyone is left confused since Decillion left them to study on their own. Ephraim is quite annoyed, calling Decillion an irresponsible man for telling them to study by themselves on the first day. Suddenly, a girl with blonde hair bumps shoulder with her, seemingly on purpose. And Ephraim immediately recognizes her. She is Sylvia von Josephine Ilade. But Sylvia seems to ignore her and quickly turns away and starts walking. Ephraim gets all nervous, wondering if she doesn't recognize her or something. A bit later, we see her working with the elements, while thinking about Sylvia, remembering that she should from the house of Ilade. 10 years ago, the Ilades, fearing her father's potential, utilized their troops to surround their manor and threaten them. So, she don't understand how can she not remember her. Suddenly, her structure seems to be getting sucked in. She realizes something is wrong and that her mana is getting sucked somewhere. And we see it's Sylvia's magic. Ephraim questions her about it upon seeing it, asking if she realizes that she has taken everything she gathered, but she doesn't reply, so Ephraim asks again. But once again she doesn't receive any response, leaving her annoyed. She then tries asking Sylvia, why is she pretending not to know her? When she again doesn't answer, Ephraim goes on to say that there is no way she doesn't recognize her, after threatening her family and forcing her to drop magic. Is she scared that she came to steal her spotlight? Sylvia finally replies that she don't know her, and Ephraim replies, now she is even talking down to her. But Sylvia asserts that she don't know her, but she knew her father, the cocky former noble, whom she heard has died, hearing which causes Ephraim to fall in anger. All the students are quick to notice, as we see Ephraim jumping at Sylvia to attack her. Sylvia seemingly gets nervous seeing this while Ephraim dares her to say that again in anger. A huge explosion occurs in that location, and all the students around braces for impact, wondering what just happened as we see Ephraim holding Sylvia by her hair being quite angry that she insulted her father. But before their conversation can go further, all the students tell them to look behind. And we see a massive hole of energy has formed right in front of them. All the students scream, and Ephraim notices that it's a void. It is where their mana collided earlier, and it's sucking everything around them. Everyone starts to run away as the void was about to explode. Ephraim gets worried knowing that if the void explodes, metal fragments are going to fly around like bullets. And everyone here will die. A huge explosion does occur, and Ephraim puts up a shield in defense. But she finds it too quiet to be the aftermath and thinks that it perhaps stopped, only to find Deculian there who is holding all the metal shards in the air. She wonders, when did he got there, and why are the exploded metal fragments frozen in place like that? Deculian then uses his magic to collect all of them in one place. And the moment he used that magic, there were exclamations all around. Because they were students learning magic, they couldn't help but feel the beauty of the magic. It was enchantment magic that no one could help but acknowledge the dazzling aspect of. Deculian brings everyone back to attention, announcing the halt of today's lecture, and asks for everyone aside from those who caused the commotion to leave, seeing which, Ephraim realizes that she messed up. Now we fast forward to the interrogation room, where someone arrives and notices the first presence of Deculian and the chairwoman. Its supporting studies department, Relan, and spirit studies department, Retlan, with the former praising both of them to high heavens by saying that they display earnestness for all the mages. The university chairwoman, Adeline Sigillian, apologizes for summoning them on short notice. Relan questions about the person who dared to lay a hand on Lady of House Ilade. Someone else replies that it was some known name attending the academy. But they also heard about Deculian stepping in before it all became a huge mess, and once again calls him truly impressive for it. Deculian notes that he is openly sucking up to him. All the professor here knows how to navigate the world, meaning the disciplinary action is set as well. The influential family Ilade's daughter, Sylvia, and the Fallon noble, who is practically a commoner, it's obvious which side they are going to be on. But he has to change the results of this disciplinary meeting, as since earlier he could feel the scarlet energy pouring out of Ephraim. It's only visible to him, as he has the sharp eyesight trait, and it shows that villain's fate has manifested. If he cannot change the result, his death would draw near. The disciplinary meeting begins, and Relan immediately goes on to scold Ephraim for causing conflict in this school, in which if not for Deculian, would have gotten someone hurt. He asks her the reason for fighting, and she simply replies that she cannot say. Ephraim knows that Deculian is looking at her from somewhere, so she cannot say anything. She knows that Sylvia looked down on her father and cleverly bothered her, but she cannot say that in front of her own enemy. Rillin continues to scold Ephraim for not looking at the difference in position between her and Sylvia, and chalks it up to her inferiority complex of hers. He then asks Sylvia to speak when Ephraim doesn't answer, who replies that she accidentally destroyed her work during class, which led to an argument. It made all of them take her side, even more that she didn't do that on purpose, and yet Ephraim took such extreme actions and calls her out for having anger management issues. They quickly tells the chairwoman to expel her, and Ephraim starts to feel cold, having to hear all sorts of rough insults at a mere school disciplinary meeting. All scoldings directed at her, and not being able to provide any excuses. There is nobody who would protect her either, which makes her feel really cold. It makes her even more angry. She directs it all to Deculion, believing that it's his fault. Adeline calls the opinions to be organized already, but asks Deculion's thoughts before drawing a conclusion, since he was at the site, who also starts to announce it while Ephraim thinks that it's all over for her. But Deculion instead questions Saliva, asking if she truly thinks that she had no fault in this incident, much to her shock. He once again asks her when she doesn't reply, leaving Ephraim in shock as well. As she wonders, what are these turn of events, Professor Rillin also asks Deculion, what is he saying in nervousness? Deculion continues that she could have prevented that incident, but haven't done so. Or is it perhaps the abilities that everyone is highly expected of are simply not enough, hearing which leaves her speechless. She quickly apologizes and admits that she didn't block her because she wanted to get her in bigger trouble. Ephraim wonders in shock. Why is Deculion asking Sylvia and not her, since it's clearly her fault regardless? Rillin argues that it's not Sylvia's fault for not defending, but the one who attacked, and Deculion replies that if he really cares for the context, then it would be his fault for making the lecture in the first place. So does he wishes for him to take the blame? Rillin immediately gets scared and replies, of course not, in a trembling tone. Ephraim notes that Deculion is even going against the professor, who is taking Sylvia's side. And why is he going so far to defend her? Adeline tells them that it's enough. Kids are supposed to fight as they grow, so she simply wants to let them go this one time rather than arguing who is at fault. She tells both of the students to head back. Ephraim trembles. She was fully prepared for expulsion. The Deculion she knew definitely could have done that. While leaving, Rillin still doesn't stop sticking his tongue in Deculion's ass, saying that he has an extraordinary way of analyzing students. Suddenly, Ephraim goes to him and calls him out. She wants to ask him a question, if he remembers the last name Luna, and if he knew her dad, and if he knows that person suffered his entire life under him, before taking his own life. Deculion expected something like this. Ephraim wants to know if he remembers the Luna family and how her father died under his delusions. But if he does say that he remembers, and what if he decided to rescind the verdict to protect himself? She questions herself. But even so, if he doesn't remember her father, there would be nothing more heartbreaking for her. Deculion tells her that she don't have to ask, and to not waste her potential on things of the past. Hearing which makes her speechless for a moment. She knew it. Deculion knew her father. If it weren't the case, he wouldn't have any reason to help her out, and assumes that he must have sensed some sense of responsibility, and decided to help her. It only makes her question more, if the reason he helped her was because out of pity. But she cries and finds it relieving that he still remembers her. She is satisfied with that. At least for now, that is enough for her. Now on the way with her father, Sylvia tells him things on what happened, and he replies that she don't have to worry about that child anymore. Her dad is the head of the Illade family, Gilthian von Ludwig Illade, an Esper mage. Believing that even if Ephraim has good talent, she missed her window. 10 years ago, on the day of the aptitude exam for entering the academy was held, she met her for the first time there. The instructor was really shocked seeing both of them. Both of them had the potential to become archmages. Even others question, how can there be two with such potential in one place? Pinnacle of the magic world, eternal, a being on a level even the emperor cannot touch. Those who rise to such level are called archmages and have their names engraved across the history of the continent. But according to tradition, only 3 people may be archmages in one era. It doesn't matter what their speciality is. That is the unchanging rule of mages. At the time, aside from Demerkin's seat, 2 were empty. One of them was likely designated for Adeline, the Magic Tower's chairwoman. In other words, Sylvia and Ephraim. who was a collateral for their family, must compete for the remaining seat. She could tell without even her father explaining explicitly. He told Ephorine's father, Kagan Luna, to give up on his daughter's entrance to the academy. That day, Sylvia knew the real reason that Elade family stomped on Luna family. It was solely due to herself. It was in order to make her the Archmage instead of Ephorine. Becoming one is also her wish and her fate. But upon remembering her words, when Ephorine told her that she is afraid of getting caught up by her, she frowns a bit and denies by saying that she just got unlucky. Her father tells her to be wary of Deculion instead of Ephorine, as he is not a simple man. He may be stumped down, but he was called a genius when he was young. He could still soar high out of the blue. But Sylvia already knows. Professor Deculion saw through her trap. At the moment of explosion, she made sure to make Ephorine's mana vanish. She set up a trap so that when it come into contact with Ephorine's mana, it would explode. The larger the incident, the more trouble she would get in. But Deculion saw through her plan immediately, even though she checked if there were any signs of magical observation happening within the room. Yet he still made them compromise instead of saying that she did it. It was a threat. I know everything, so go along with me. She had no choice but to accept it. At first, she thought that he was simple and average person with a slightly above-average talent. It makes her wonder, just what kind of man is he? Fast forward to a few days later, at the Deculion's manor. Roy asks Deculion if he is ready, and he replies that he would be down soon. He seems to be heading somewhere. While in the car, he thinks that he made the right choice by supporting Ephorine, thanks to which he removed a variable of his death and gained store currency. He didn't know that the debutante who asked him the question was Ephorine, but she was most like hostile towards Deculion then. But now Sylvia might hold grudge towards him over what happened, but he had no choice but to put out the fire on his shoe. That all aside, he prefers avoiding the social events, but he cannot let an opportunity to gain more store currency pass him. He needs at least 5 store currency to access the shop, so he plans to check out any named characters at the event. He finally arrives at the event and gets welcomed by the attendants. Looking around, he finds there to be all high-ranking nobles and a lot of named people that he is familiar with, especially Ehelm, someone whom he modeled himself. It makes him think that he made the right choice by coming here. Suddenly, he is noticed by someone who excitedly calls him out upon seeing him. His son is supposedly taking Deculion's classes, and as other people listen in that Deculion is here, all of them quickly swarms him, making him retract his last statement about making the right choice. Suddenly, he overhears someone taking the name Ganesha. He quickly tries to look over to see who was it. He knows that getting acquainted with her, who will have an important turning point in the story among adventurers, would be the greatest thing he could do today. He haphazardly tries to find her among the crowd while we see someone standing right behind him. And it's the adventurer Ganesha, the 5th strongest character in the early story. Deculion tries searching for her, noting that she is definitely here somewhere. He is quickly able to find her upon looking right back. It's the woman in pigtails, wearing an adventurer's outfit. He tries to hurry up to meet her, but someone suddenly calls him out, making him quite annoyed for being stopped at such time. It's none other than Ehelm, who is an Imperial College exclusive mage, monarch rank. When Deculion takes his name, he sarcastically remarks that he is honored to be remembered by the head professor Deculion, and asks about his research and some apparent rumors that he heard as well. Deculion asks, what is he referring to? And he replies, just that his research hasn't made much progress in last 3 years, and people are now doubting his abilities, and Deculion realizes that Ehelm is simply mocking him. He used to be Deculion's peer in university. They were once close, but after losing the head position to him, he became quite jealous of him and holds a strong grudge. Perhaps the original Deculion might have fallen for his provocations, but not him, and it's not like he is wrong either, since the rumors are true. And when Deculion looks back at Ganesha's place, he finds her missing. It makes him all angry that he lost her while talking to a bastard like him, while Ehelm continues to mock him. And so he steps in close to him and tell him that it's enough of his bullshit. He should piss off like the rotten cheese like bastard he is. Hearing which leaves him quite shocked while Deculion goes on to find Ganesha. He wants to get acquainted with her before the gathering ends. Everyone wonders, where did Deculion leave while he sighs in annoyance? Even without Ehelm, there are tons of people sticking OT him, which is why he don't like to come to social gatherings. Suddenly, we see Ganesha is standing there as well and calls Deucalion out, saying that they finally meet, or if he was searching for her. Deucalion finds it surprising to be meeting her here, but more importantly, he finds out that Deucalion and Ganesha are already acquainted. He gives an excuse to her that he simply got lost, but she laughs and replies that she knows he was looking for her since he has something to say, and apologizes for a mission back then. But she did gave him the advance and the cancellation fees back then, so she wants him to let it got this once. Woojin realizes that she had a relationship based on commission with him. She once again apologizes for not being able to bring him a child talented in magic like he requested, though it's not like she didn't bring them. She just got attached to them, so she couldn't give them to him. Woojin was wondering what it was about, but he realizes that Deucalion was going to repeat it. His attempt to compensate for his own shortcomings by using a talented child. Ganesha also wants to ask him one thing. Until when does he plan to keep on living like that? It makes him think as well, until he possessed Deucalion's body. He accepted the sweet talk of those who were of no help and destroyed the trust of those around him, and hurt many for his own fame. But he replies to Ganesha that he is going to live differently now. She didn't expect that response. She thought he would try to kill her, since she did agree to a mission that was secret and ran away. But Deucalion calls her concern excessive. Woojin was surprised at Deucalion's decision. The fact that he was trying to kill Ganesha, who has top-class combat skills, he was really willing to die. He don't know about the original Deucalion, but Ganesha is a named character who can kill someone with a strand of her hair. Her attributes: invincible body and master of all martial arts. She is a fighter and adventurer who has reached the physical peak. But because he possessed Deucalion, he couldn't send assassins after Ganesha, but if he did, he would have died. While it's a bit different that he thought, he did accomplish his goal of getting acquainted with her and making connections. So there is no need for him to stay here, and starts to take his leave while telling her to not worry. She asks once again if it's okay, if there will be no assassinations or deaths. Deucalion simply glances back and replies, "It's classless," much to her surprise. Like Ganesha said, with Eucline's power, he could use the Adventurers Guild to pressure her, but doing so would make unforeseen variables regarding his death arise. He suddenly gets rewarded store currency with a notification which says that he avoided a death variable, much to his shock. Before it was overcoming and now it says avoided. He didn't recognize it, but that conversation earlier with Ganesha was also a death variable for him. It makes him realize that he cannot be at ease anywhere. We now switch scenes to Rayleigh, Julie's relative, who asks her, just how long is she going to be here for? And she replies that she didn't want to come here in the first place, but Rayleigh tells her to enough of it and come to her, which she declines. A short silence follows and Rayleigh asks, how is things going with that person? And Julie tries to feign ignorance, so Rayleigh replies that it's with Professor Deucalion. She is worried due to the rumors. She quickly remembers what happened with Deucalion last time and gets sad again, and tells Rayleigh that it's not good, obviously. Rayleigh tells her to not say such things loudly, but Julie suddenly notices something. It's Deucalion. They both takes notice of each other as well. But he simply ignores her and leaves. Everyone is surprised seeing that since Deucalion is supposed to be someone who loves social gathering, and the fact that he is leaving without even looking at his fiancée. It starts the talk around the rumors that their relationship is indeed in a rough spot. Since Deucalion left the social gathering earlier as usual, there were talks that he did so because of disharmony with Julie. But there was no way that he would know that. 1 week passed since he attended the social event, Flower of the New Year. During that time, other than his daily memorization and basic telekinesis training, he felt his stamina was a bit lacking, so he began working out. The reason being that he almost died after doing something crazy. We go back to a few days ago and see him coughing up blood. If he were a normal mage, he would have died, but he managed to withstand this using his Iron Man attribute. He desired greater strength after meeting Ganesha that day, so he engraved fire control in addition to his existing telekinesis to strengthen his metal manipulation. The purpose of this upgrade was of implanting core of magic inside telekinesis. This method would reduce the amount of time needed to learn magic, but it's incredibly dangerous. After realizing the intense strain it puts on his body, he decided to strengthen it. As a result, he developed a morning routine for himself to work on. And now, it was already time for his to go to work. Now at the head Professor DeKillian's office, Alan seems to be handing over something to him. It's a statement arrived from the Magic Tower. The sender is the Magic Tower qualification of Professor Commit, hearing which makes him nervous. There seems to be an audit happening on his research in the next 6 months. Until then, they want him to prepare the relevant documents for it. Woojin realizes that DeKillian's res reach must have been at a standstill for a long time before he possessed his body if an audit is happening, and it's an unfavorable situation for him. The DeKillian inside the game was always a professor. He assumes that the precondition of the quest is being a professor, so the moment he loses that title, it would be equivalent of losing all hope of returning. As such, he has to find something, anything, in DeKillian's laboratory. But as soon as he walks inside, he notices the room to be complete mess. To him, it looks like that nobody has been in here for a long time. If DeKillian had come and gone, there is no way that this place would be such a mess. Suddenly, he notices something. The heap of trash on the ground somehow particularly looks unnatural, which gets him wondering if it's hiding something. He don't know who he can blame for this pile of trash, but there is no better way to stop DeKillian. But in this situation, he is quite glad that he managed to learn telekinetic manipulation. He finds a book in the trash and notes that it has encrypted research results so that it won't be stolen. But he finds it useless for a moment and uses comprehension skill on it, using which surprises him quite a bit as a golden light shines through the whole room. He realizes that the research was quite incredible. What he can see through the combined usage of wealthy magnate and sharp eyesight is this brilliant. But the research is still incomplete. It's torn from various places, and there are empty spots. Even the logic in one of the part is completely incorrect. Despite this research was valuable enough for his wealth magnate skill to react like this. The child Ephraim Luna, whose father was working as DeKillian's researcher, he made a desperate attempt to hide this from DeKillian. The grudge the mages of the Luna family bear against DeKillian. It's clear that because of DeKillian, Ephraim has lived a brutal life, miserable life. But he plans to use the comprehension skill and complete the research, and if he manages to complete the paper that way, then he plans to also add her name on the paper as a co-author. Now at the university on Campus Cafe, the commoners are planning to stick together, which they believe if they want, they would end up suffering one day. The red-haired girl asks Ephraim for her opinion on this, who is annoyed and remembers that she used to be a noble as well. But it's fine, since she don't even have a residence or land right now, so she is not any kind of noble. The red-haired girl absolutely wants her to be here, as the representative of the commoners, since she was the victim of Sylvia as well. Another girl agrees, but argues that they would need a permission from a supervising professor if they want to make a club, which she don't think any professor would give them. The red-haired girl agrees, finding it to be the biggest hurdle. They all quickly tries to think of some professor who would give them the permission, but every single one of them don't plan on siding with the commoners. And lastly, when it comes to DeKillian, one of them says that of course he wouldn't. Meanwhile, Ephraim is focused on the dessert which she wants to eat, hoping others want. But the red-haired girl excitedly stands up and asks Ephraim to ask Professor DeKillian. One of them does think it's a good idea since he looks down on everyone, be it noble or a commoner, and the fact that Ephraim avoided getting punished by him, meaning she must have caught his eye, which she tries to deny, and gets annoyed thinking, why did the mood suddenly turn weird? She didn't want to do anything with him. She tries to quickly run away, telling them that they are completely wrong and it would have opposite effect instead. The red-haired girl tries to stop her from running into someone ahead, and Ephraim asks, what is wrong to her? Suddenly, she hears the word, move, in a cold voice, and upon turning behind, finds DeKillian to be staring at her. Seeing DeKillian, Ephraim is quite surprised. Meanwhile, Julia is cheering her on from hiding, leaving Ephraim quite embarrassed, who mentally questions Julia. When did she got there? Though she is still nervous and going through asking DeKillian for his signature. But she finally musters up the courage and asks for his signature for the club she is making. She promises to not annoy him at all, as she is simply worried since he usually don't approve of any clubs with peasants. Meanwhile, thinking that she don't want to get involved with DeKillian, but she still finds Julia right. It's given that other professor won't cooperate with them, so rather than be bothered all the time by others on this matter, she would rather give this a try instead. DeKillian signs the paper and asks her to send the details later to his office, much to her shock. She is left speechless the fact that Dekillian really signed it. Julia comes from behind and hugs her, citing that she didn't expect she would really take his signature, while Ephraim wonders the reason for it. It was just like back at the disciplinary committee. Why is he being so nice to her, she wonders. Fast forward to lecture time. Today is the lesson for understanding of pure elements. Elements are the building bases of all magic, but there are still many mages who don't understand the difference between categorical magic and pure elements, and while he is explaining all that, Ephraim goes on to wonder if it's guilt. Or sympathy perhaps. He drove her father to death, so even if he is nice to her now, it all feels fake to her. And if he truly feels what he did is wrong, then she wants him to reveal his true self to the world and repent for all the crimes he committed. Seeing her like this, Julia concernedly asks if she is all right. Ephraim suddenly snaps back, while Julia comments that she doesn't seem to be doing well. And to try to relieve her, she tells her to not concern herself over those guys. They don't know anything other than to run their mouths. Ephraim doesn't understand what is she talking about. But upon looking to the side, she finds the condescending gazes of other students directed towards her, calling her a vermin. She really made herself a common enemy of the nobles after her incident with Sylvia, despite the fact she is a former noble herself. She assured Julia that it's all right, since those guys are always like that with them, so they should focus on the lecture instead. Dekillian continues to explain that the magic they all used till now contained reasoning in each strokes. Ephraim heard that Dekillian's lecture are different. He continues on that the ignition spell can change just by adding 2 strokes to the circle, which is because these 2 strokes decide the color of the flames. And this is what they are going to learn today, flowing fire spell. Ephraim's thought about his lecture were not incorrect. Originally, Dekillian's lecture was just a way for him to boast using his position as a professor. But the lectures from Wu Jin right now were beautiful reenactments using mana, creative explanation of elite understanding, which came to as a shock to debutantes who were in the lecture, as well as Sylvia, who had lost the joy of learning due to her genius talents, but now hearing this lecture seems to have reignited something inside of her. Continuing on, as they all know the summoning circle for water, which if they combine with the fire circle, it would become this instead, much to everyone's shock, as everyone sees the fire flowing like water, leaving even the genius Sylvia surprised, who thinks of what is happening in front of her as impossible. She didn't know that his lectures were this theoretical. Most mages who are called geniuses use their intuition to cast spells. Theory is like a mold for them. So if all mages prioritize theory, all magic would be in the same mold. It makes sense, since if you focus too much on theory, there is not enough time to learn magic. Trying to understand magic through theory is very inefficient and gets in the way of training, which is the paradox of magic. In order to become an elite, you have to have good intuition, but elites cannot explain intuition. So, for someone whose genius is being questioned by the world right now, to teach such a theory-focused lesson is practically impossible. After the lecture ends and Ephraim gets back on her way to the dorm, she realizes how completely different it was from the rumors she had heard. Instead of being dull or incomprehensible, the lecture held her attention from start to finish. For the first time in a long while, she had listened without her mind drifting, hanging on to every explanation and example. As she walks down the quiet path, the thought lingers in her head. She had never focused this hard on a lecture before. Upon coming to her room, once again there are pranks waiting for her at the door. She pauses, staring at the familiar mess with tired eyes, and lets out a slow sigh. How long are they going to keep up with these stupid pranks? Every day it's the same. Petty jokes meant to annoy her, to remind her she doesn't belong. The pranks and jokes has gotten even worse since what happened with Sylvia. Suddenly, she notices a sponsorship certificate beneath her door. She believes it to be another prank, believing there is no way it could be real, since how could anyone sponsor her when she is hated by both Ilade household and Dekillian? But also calls it a good opportunity for her, since she could report it for false and also get a reward for it. A bit later, we see her coming out of the magical administration office. She got to know that the sponsorship was actually real. The instructor there confirmed with Ephraim that the seal is indeed real, much to her absolute shock. She becomes completely elated upon knowing that and pinches herself to wake up if it's a dream. She quietly goes back to her dorm, hoping that no one saw her, Being scared of someone finding out that she got 100,000 LT, she starts packing her emergency bags in case something happens, going so far as to regretting going to the administration office. She also remembers the staff member giving her a weird look, so maybe she is after her money, she thinks, though she only gave her that look because of her strange question bit. It causes her to hit her head on the table due to that worry. But that hit on her head made her realize that she hasn't woken up. It's not a dream, causing tears to flow from her eyes. The fact that somebody finally noticed her talents makes her really happy and elated. It motivates her to try a little bit harder since there is someone watching. The world is still kind for her.